Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Just Another Esports podcast. Once again, you're joined by me, your host, Nicholas Shady Bacon, and my co-host, Mr. Kevin Hubers. This past weekend, we wrapped up we wrapped up week 2 of stage 4. It was pretty cut and dry. I think there was only really realistically one major upset on the weekend that we'll dive into when we go over the matches that we did see. And then obviously we'll be giving our predictions for the third week of stage 4. However, right off the bat, the coin was out for vengeance this week, clearly. It did not like me insulting it and it losing its 50-50 ratio of going 4-10 the prior week. Because this weekend, it went 80%. It got 80% of the matches right this past week, the coin did. My God, it's above a 50% now in its predictions so far for this season, which is pretty darn good for a coin. I would say so myself. The coin, it tied with me at 8 out of 10 matches and actually beat you. You were at 7 out of 10. So
Yeah, that
the coin, no more insulting the coin. Came back with a vengeance.
coin went off. Hate to
Coin
see
went
it.
off. It did, but we're going to jump right into our Thursday matchups. We did see the likes of the Seattle Surge taking on the Atlanta FaZe. And as both of us expected, and as the coin expected, it was going to be a swift 3-0 for Atlanta over Seattle. That's pretty much to be expected. Both you and I, we had Seattle in the bottom of our power rankings, and we had Atlanta FaZe in the top. The other matchup that we did see from the Seattle Surge this weekend, however, was up against that Minnesota Rocker lineup. And this was one of the matchups that we disagreed on. You had Seattle taking it 3-2. I had Minnesota taking it 3-2. But this was one that could realistically have been pretty close. However, in this matchup, it did go Minnesota's way, and it went in 3-1 fashion. And while I don't think Minnesota really showed a lot this weekend, having only won one of their matches. Actually, I think they only
played once,
this week.
so
They only did play once, but they beat the kind of the worst team in their group, so to say. So it was kind of
it was like a bye
potentially a
week.
win. Yeah, it was a win that like you should expect. However, with how Minnesota's been performing, like we still thought it would have been a relatively close matchup. But I think it just goes to show how dire of a state the Seattle Surge is in. And since their percentage is so low, I know Joey Nubsy says until the percentage hits 0, we're not going to take our foot off the gas. But for me, and I think for you as well, their percentage is 0 to make
Yeah,
champs.
they're
And so I kind of want to move the conversation to Seattle on what do you think they should kind of do for the rest of this season? Kind of what is their goal with these continuing matches?
You know what? Honestly, if I were Seattle Surge, I wouldn't even bother scrimming. I would just spend my entire time trying to make content like Optic. That's all I would do. That would be the most ideal way to make the most out of your time if you're the Seattle Surge. Because there's no shot you're making the playoffs. Your season's over. Like, GG, no re. Y'all fucking suck. Um, I mean, the only thing you can do is go behind the fact that you have some really strong personalities on the team, and then support their desire to make content and to grow their brands, grow your brand with that. Hell, grab.
They're not really a content team. I mean, you have Octane who's been doing YouTube videos, but outside of that, none of those players are big content guys. They're actually probably some of the worst content
streams.
people.
Preston's not good at it.
Preston, I feel like, has never had a social presence.
He's
always
good on
kind
Twitter,
of been,
but his brother Alex better.
But outside of that, really, I mean, he's kind of one of the more quiet players I feel inside of the CDL, outside of the occasional Twitter post, and the same kind of goes for Classic in that sense. So, I mean, you're looking at Gunless and
yeah, but like
Octane.
Take a look at like
those are
Dashy and not even. Well, I mean, Formal he's just kind of used to it at this point. But he was one of those guys that back in the day. Nowadays, he just doesn't care. He's just like, you know what? This is probably my last season anyway. It's not like I'm trying to, burn bridges or whatever. Um, so he's not trying to like save bridges or anything. He just doesn't care. Like today, whenever he went off at Krim, oh my word, oh
Yeah,
my
Ormal's
word,
over here just setting forest fires.
he just
Someone call Smokey the Bear.
Oh my god. So, but like, think about it. It doesn't matter. You have enough people. You like Joey Nubsies would be a decent enough guy in front of the camera. You just, as an organization, have to refocus. You just have to say, all right, instead of focusing on winning, we should just focus on making TikToks because that's going to be the only way that you do anything related to
Good
saving your
lord.
shit franchise.
Gosh
Um,
damn it, TikTok.
and
No,
that's
you're right. I do think that yeah, they should probably put some more focus into content since their season is pretty much done at this point. However, like one, it's just not the heart of the competitor to really kind of just completely give up, even when you have a 0% chance. And especially, I feel like that would give the players a really bad rep moving forward into next season. If they were to just give up completely, it kind of shows that they don't care enough
right,
uh, to put on a good performance for their fans. I mean, yes, your personal goal of making it the champs might be gone, but I think you still need to have enough respect for the people that have put their faith in you and still support you throughout the season to play your best. I think that's a really important thing. And I think that obviously would earn them a lot of respect from their fan base if they still see them kind of pushing forward and caring. Because once like the fan sees that the player doesn't care anymore, then why should they care about the team? Realistically,
right.
I think that's a very important thing for some of the players to understand. But yeah,
So
um,
we talked about
I think
one team.
maybe rebuilding too.
Sure.
If they know they're not going to keep some of these players, like they should start having those talks now. And
Yeah, you could be proactive in
if they're
that.
going to need to do a full rehaul, then maybe start looking at some of the challenger kids and get them early on before other people snatch them up or start
Or
talking about
yeah,
future
absolutely.
trades.
Or some of like the college COD kids. Like imagine if Tyler Noisy, who just absolutely torched the entire COD league and made it look like a joke, um,
Was
it
he
met,
on the
he was on
he was on
Ottawa.
one of the scholarships,
Yeah, he was
right?
on Ottawa Black, if I recall correctly.
Did
Um,
those two teams play against each other in the finals?
yes, and it
Okay.
well, no, did they play in the grand final? Yeah, so they played in the winter semis, and then
Okay.
Ottawa Black beat Ottawa Gold in the semis, and then Ottawa Gold beat Concord in the losers grand finals because they had beaten them prior to. And
Yeah.
the second game was actually kind of close, and I applaud Jamie and the crew over there for sticking with some honest to god like shooters. Um, the fact that Concord
Yeah, because
was
I believe Ottawa is the only collegiate COD team that had scholarship players.
no, there were a few others.
There are a few other, okay.
They were just the ones that did it right. Like shout out to Parker Parentis and the guys over there. So Tyler Noisy just straight up destroyed the entire league. This kid was nuts. Noisy is one of the best players coming up, and he's probably the best player in college COD. There's a couple of them. 47 was this other kid. He wasn't on either any of the Ottawa teams. He came out of nowhere. Nobody knew who this kid was. If he lights up the league again like he did last year, I mean that kid needs to think about a contract because that whole lead, Lurid 47, dude was nuts, twisted. Um, let's see. So they found some kids that are just, I mean, there's some talent in college COD. There's also talent in challengers. The Elite Series is full of people just hungry to get back into the game. Um, so yeah, I think you're right. If Seattle wants to find their way out of this, that's the two paths. I agree. You just find some challengers kids and see if they have energy to make content. You know, like see if they care enough to try and win some games. So
Yeah. Yeah, but that's kind of I guess at least our thoughts on Seattle. Looking at Minnesota, that was the only match they played. I guess talking about Atlanta's other match. Atlanta's other match was up against LA Thieves, and the LA Thieves, they did not have a good weekend by any means. Once again, they got 3-0 smoked by Atlanta FaZe. Wasn't close at all. And well, Atlanta, they won both. They're still looking good. Nothing to talk about there. No complaints. They're having a jolly good old time over there at the Atlanta Cap. Simp, absolutely insane weekend, dropping, I think, a 40 bomb or something somewhere along the lines in the control, I think, or close to it. I think he got 39. But yeah, LA Thieves, they lost to Atlanta FaZe 0-3 or 3, yeah, 0-3. And then they lost to the Paris Legion in what I consider the only upset of the weekend, since, I mean, both you and I had Paris kind of in our bottom tier, and we had, I think you had Atlanta, or you had the Thieves, and I think we both actually had the Thieves up there kind of in the middle of the pack with like the Dallas Empire and close-ish to, I think, the Florida Mutineers. But they lost to Paris 3-1, and they got blown out by Atlanta FaZe. And so they're kind of flopping realistically here. I mean, they looked really good when they first had this lineup with Tej, Draza, Kenny, and Venom. Then they swapped TJ out for Hook for like a couple of games, and they're like, this isn't working, and they bring TJ back in, and they haven't really seen that same success as when they first had this lineup.
Yeah, I was about to say there was another team that had a bye week this week, and they played 2 games, and that was the Atlanta FaZe. They're like, I have no idea what's going on with the Thieves right now. JCap is just blasted. That dude just, I don't know. It just feels like, yeah, he's been in the game for a long time, and yeah, he's been a part of some good
JCap
rosters.
blasted, or are the players just not playing well?
Honestly, like, you have Hook on your bench. What? Why? You have the answer. Like, he's the truth. Like, this kid was an MVP caliber form early in the season. What happened? You just have to, like...
Players and teams think he plays too selfishly.
I guess. I don't know. I honestly, like, I think... I don't know. I just feel like the kid's aggressive on the map, yeah, but that's important. That's like... that's... You get 4 Hooks on a team, and that's Atlanta FaZe. Like... You know, not only are they aggressive, but they are aggressive together. So, I think Venom works fine. I think Venom's the most aggressive out of TJ and Hook, or sorry, out of him and TJ. So I think Venom is probably the other guy. Here's an interesting thought, though. So, what if the LA Thieves were to acquire Octane? Like Seattle. Just looks like a lost cause to him. Like, I feel like he's looking to leave. He's looking to leave. The LA Thieves, he already has experience with Matt Haig, and I'm sure he's looking for that reason to come back
Who does Octane realistically want to team with, though? Because I don't think his 100 Thieves lineup, the old 100 Thieves lineup, of like him, Kenny, Slasher, and whatever SMG they want to get would work. Like
No.
that 100% would not work. Kenny is not a flex player. He's only realistically good with 1 gun per game. And you better fucking hope it's an SMG if that is your squad. And then you're gonna, I guess, have Slasher on your flex or something, because Octane has never used any other gun but an AR, to my knowledge.
I think
so. You have like 3 guys that probably want to use an AR sometimes.
Slasher is a very cerebral player. I can fully anticipate him picking up flex. Octane's main AR, his gun go burr. And there's not many shooters in the league better than him. So he's the human turret, and he's a beast. For the subs, I do think that you go with Venom. He's the young stunner. He's the one who's just trying to make sure that, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, killing the trophies, running around, engineer flak jacket, sub OBJ on the map, picking up the bomb, all that fun stuff, right? So he's that guy. And then honestly, I think you give Hook a chance at that point because if Octane's on the map, like I mean, he can outshoot the best. Like he outshoots Alec all day. Like our cities doesn't stand a chance against Octane in this game. Like they duel it out, but nah. Every
You
time that I've seen
seen
them,
Arcity's stats?
trust me, I've seen him, and he's great against most people. But against Octane, I don't think they like that roster that I put together. They would take that Atlanta FaZe team to a
They
game
would get
5.
obliterated.
Nah. Well, maybe
Those,
if it was like the first game they played together.
I do not see those pieces working together at all. I think you have a lot of players there that are good on paper, but that are hard to fit into teams. Incredibly hard to fit into teams. And I think that's why they haven't really seen too much success. I think you had a lot more ability to take these hard to fit in players on and make them work on teams of 5. Now you're kind of seeing difficulties with fitting them into teams of 4. and that's why some of them are out of league or on the bench or on failing rosters. That's my opinion on it, though.
True. Well, I think we have differing opinions on what to do with the LA Thieves, and I'm sure that JCap will pick neither of them and do something entirely different. Probably dumb. LA Thieves are
Yeah.
starting to look like a lost cause in my eyes.
I'm fine with this LA Thieves roster. But yeah, they're not doing too well.
No,
So it'll be interesting to see how they perform this week up against, I believe, Optic Chicago. Since they had a really good showing last time against them with this roster.
imagine Draza, Octane, Venom, and you know what? TJ. How about that roster?
Um, I don't think there's a single vocal leader on that team. It's that issue.
I
don't
think
know.
I think I think
Maybe,
TJ can evolve into that.
yeah, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know. But
I think Octane and TJ actually get along. So, like, I think they're actually friends. So, I mean, everybody in the league's friends with each other. It's the best friend
kind of.
club, right? The CDL
Yeah.
is the
Yeah,
friendship league.
except
So,
for Formal and Crims.
well, I mean, there's your beef. That's why they had to kick.
Crim just made up with Scump like at the start of the new year, and now Formal's like, oh, you guys made up? Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start beef
I'm gonna
with Crim
shit on your
now.
chest. Prim did clap back at him
Oh,
though,
good lord.
whenever they all said. But
Oh yeah, I know.
that's kind of weak considering this dude drives like a Porsche. Like what's 6,000 to him? But I mean, like also in like yeah, Matt,
$6,000. That's like
you
it's
should
like a
have
couple
like
months rent.
you should have made like you should have like said yeah, like I'm gonna cut you that deal. We agreed on that. Yeah, he was the nastiest out of all of them, and he kind of did carry that season, but I don't know. I just like they're all good. They were all, I mean, that's why it was the dynasty. So it's just it's always gonna go back to Hector Rodriguez. I anything in the CDL that is popular always goes back to the Mexican businessman that owns all of Call of Duty. So, nothing against the dude. I love him.
If he owned all of Call of Duty, we'd probably actually have a decent rank system, funnily enough. But every game would be what's his favorite Call of Duty? Call of Duty
COD
2.
2. Yeah, it would be COD 2.
Every Call of Duty would be COD 2, which I don't know if I'm a fan of that idea realistically, but yeah. All right, I think we've shot the shit enough. Time to move on.
Let's talk about Atlanta a little bit though, because they really did have.
I was gonna talk. Oh, you wanted to talk about Atlanta? Okay.
Yeah, so
talk
I mean,
about
like
Atlanta. I don't have anything to talk about Atlanta. They were just good, and then we'll move on to Paris.
they were just good. No, they were more than just good. They
were insane.
They were like nuts, like just up down on Seattle. We knew that was going to happen. Like we both predicted 3-0, and we both kind of predicted the 3-0 with the Thieves, but we gave them each a round. Like they can win a respawn somewhere, right? There's the hard point, there's the control. I don't think that the Thieves are in a position to beat Atlanta and Search. They're still like the roster's still fresh. Um, and Atlanta is one of the best search teams in the game, if not the best search team still.
They are definitely the best search team in the game right now.
Right now, yes.
I think like outside of stage 2 where they had a really bad performance, they've been the best search and destroy team, like without a doubt. Let's just be straight with that. Outside of stage 2, where they got second at the major, they have been the best search team all year, and they literally just lost their second best S&D map in their checkmate. Like,
you know what?
Currently, they haven't looked great on standoff because they got 1-6 by the Paris Legion, but I imagine they're going to get better at that as they have on Express. And
Right.
their current record in Search and Destroy is 13-17, 30-17. They've won 30 S&Ds and lost 17 of them. Their round win percentage is 55.10%, which is a whole 3% higher than the second best S&D team, at least by, I guess, round win percentage, which is the Gorillas.
That's interesting.
They aren't by their record. The second best S&D team by record is Toronto at 26-19, but Atlanta is the only S&D team with an above 50% offensive round win record at 53%, which is a whole 5% better than the second closest team. So, yeah,
Right.
they're pretty fucking nasty at search and destroy.
Yes, they are.
They're nasty at every game mode. Let's just be clear with that. They're like the dominance statistically from this Atlanta phase. Sorry to keep cutting you off.
No, you're fine.
This season though is insane, absolutely insane. 30-17 in S&D. They're 27-7 in control.
Jeez.
They haven't even lost double digits in control this entire season. They are once again the only team with a above 50% offensive round win percentage in that mode at 56%, which is a whole 14% greater than the second best control team.
Yeah.
They have and then their hard point record is 36-16, where they're winning on average by 31. That's including their losses. Like, they're just disgusting all around.
Yeah. So, yeah, phase are gross at this point. Like the fact that they just bodied LADs like that, which I mean, I shit on the roster, but at the same time, like it's not a terrible roster. Just completely decimate them. This was really another bye week for the face. And going into stage 4 major, I think this is the first time that I'm gonna pick the phase to win it all because they're looking unstoppable at this point.
Yeah. And like the only team that can contest them still in my eyes, well, I think there's kind of two now.
There is two now.
Florida and Toronto. But I don't think New York has a shot, even though they've been really good, simply because of their control and their S&D not being up to phases level. That's it.
That's not actually who I was gonna say. I was gonna say the subliners.
And
Toronto, of course.
Okay.
So, but I mean, Toronto is up there. If anybody else is going to win the major, Toronto did fine against London. I really don't have anything to say about either of those teams. I don't know if you have any comments about that game. It was a quick 3-0.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the subliners pulled off 2 wins this weekend.
Are we talking about subliners now?
I want to talk about the subliners because.
Okay. Did you have anything else to say about Atlanta?
No, we're fucking nasty. They're gross.
You're really excited
Abizi,
to talk about
Simp,
Atlanta
Cell, RC. You guys are disgusting. Like, I
Okay,
mean, the best in the
I'm just
game.
asking because I know you're really excited to
Like,
talk about Atlanta.
balls deep. No, I wasn't even like that excited to talk about it. I just wanted
Okay,
to talk about it. But
all right,
subliners,
all right.
seriously,
Well, okay, subliners.
subliners took Florida and Dallas game 5, come out on top. What does this say to the Empire who just got rid of Clayster this season? What does this win mean to them? Especially after like
For New York, for
especially with
I
how abysmal Crimsix has been performing for Dallas.
yeah. So honestly, all of Dallas has been performing bad outside of Shotzi.
Right.
And we'll stick to talking about New York, but and then we'll jump to Dallas. But yeah, New York, they beat Florida. That was a really important match because Florida, they obviously beat Toronto the week prior, so this really helps New York to attempt to solidify a first seed coming out of the group. And then they had a closer match up against the Dallas Empire than either you and I thought. We
True.
thought it was going to be a 3-0, or you thought it was going to be 3-0. I thought it was going to be a 3-1. It went all the way to a game 5. And I believe they won both of the S&Ds up against the Dallas Empire, which I do think
Yes.
is a good thing for them, since that is a very important mode if they
Right.
do eventually want to win a major. They need to be better in their S&D.
Sure, for sure.
And with 2 comfortable wins up against the Dallas Empire, or actually, wait, they lost the raid S&D, and then they won the standoff.
Well, yeah, I mean it was a
Oh, they
standoff.
won both hard points. That's right. Okay,
Yeah.
my bad. But with, I guess, at least one comfortable win up against the Dallas Empire, that's a good thing to show. But the thing with them was they still lost that control,
Right.
and Dallas had been on the second longest. Actually, they were tied for the longest control loss streak with the Seattle Surge, which is not a record you want to be with. They
Right.
finally picked up a win in their matchup earlier this past weekend, and then they won another one up here up against the New York Subliners.
Right.
And so a team that literally just got off off of an 8-loss win streak, an 8-series loss streak in control, and you're losing to them, like, that's not a good look for New York, obviously. So they still have a lot to do, a lot to improve on in control, and they went 50-50 in S&D, I guess, here, and they barely won the hard points, which was pretty, like, this Dallas Empire match maybe is probably one of the biggest reasons why I'm taking New York out of that kind of title contention for this upcoming major. When, like, if we were to not look at this Dallas match, if we were only to look at that Florida matchup, yeah, I would probably have them in that running for potentially winning stage 4 major. But because of this Dallas matchup and because of how bad Dallas has been since all of their roster change shenanigans, it really does kind of hurt my opinion on this New York roster. And it just continues to kind of remind me of, like, the old Optic, like maybe Optic in World War II, where they were god awful at capture the flag, which was
Right.
that swing game mode, like absolutely abysmal at that. They were 50-50 in S&D, and then they were pretty dominant in hardpoint, but they would still lose them every now and then, even when they were outslaying by absurd margins. And I hope that we don't see New York devolve into what that World War II roster became. And I hope we see maybe more of an evolution of what we had in IW for Optic, where they started out really good at kind of hardpoint, and they were always good at, like, uplink, and then they were pretty bad at S&D, but then their S&D kind of carried them, and it got a lot better over the course of the season.
Right.
Honestly, that was what was leading them to victories kind of by the end of the season. So I hope that's kind of what we see from this New York
Well,
lineup.
shoot,
But
with how like this week was not very competitive aside from the subliner matchups. Every other game was either a 3-1 or a 3-0. So I mean, not a lot of fight from anybody, but the subliners, despite the fact that they had some close games, I really do think that they're pretty well put together right now, and they have they're in a position to start threatening. I think everybody's vibing really well. Hydra has been it. He's been like the truth for that lobby. It is insane how good that kid is. Like
Yeah.
rookie of the
And I
year in
guess
my eyes.
we do have to take into consideration the difficulties ASIM is going through, obviously with getting his visa to get here actually for the
Right.
stage 4 major, which is a whole issue in and of itself. And then obviously Hydra Paco was pretty sick, pretty ill. Uh, I know when they switched the cam to him after their victory, he was having some insane, deathly coughing fit over on his player cam. So hopefully he gets better, since he definitely looked ill during both of their matches, and they were still able to pick up a victory. So that is something we do have to consider, I guess.
Yeah, so I so I mean Hydra's sick and he still whoops on two well, Florida's really solid. Dallas is still I mean, the LAG win was relatively convincing. That this might be a solid roster for
I mean,
now.
it was a 3-0
It was it
up
was
against LAG.
it was a hot enough 3-0, right? But still not competing against those upper echelon teams. Clearly against the subliners, um, who, like I said, are in good form. So if you're Dallas, what do you do?
I don't have the answer for that.
Wow, that was great conversation.
Well, I mean, they've tried a couple different things. I mean, you look at their lineup, and realistically, I think they just went from Hook, who's a really good player. Yes, he may play selfishly or something or whatever, and you bring in Vivid, and I feel like you just downgraded a player that's doing the exact same fucking shit. Like realistically, and Vivid has been absolutely abysmal within this roster. Realistically, the only reason they even got close to beating the Sunlighters and the only reason they beat the LA Gorillas was because Shotzi was having a fucking insane weekend. The guy went 1.78 on the weekend. He was
Yeah,
like, yeah, if you have a player dropping a 1.78 on a weekend, you aren't fucking losing. I mean, they still
right.
did lose to the subliners, but like, holy crap.
Yeah,
Like
what
this
what do you have
guy
to do?
literally he's doing so much for this team. And then he's just carrying the dead weight of Illy, who's been super inconsistent for whatever reason this season. Vivid, who's been crap on this roster outside of like maybe one good game, and Crimsix, who's still around like a point 0.9 or something. So like realistically, they fucked up. They realistically fucked up with dropping Hook. Yeah, I said it back when they originally benched him and then they
Right,
eventually ended up training him, that this was the only roster decision that I could not make an argument for because it was so ridiculous in
right.
my eyes. And I think looking at it, it's still proven to be ridiculous. And they what other options do they have? Like this is kind of the core roster that they're gonna have to stick with. They have they have one more major before champs. So you're either you make a roster change after this major or you're sticking with it through champs. And I don't know what players are kind of left in the league for them to pick up. Like unless they like, there's no one. Maybe there's someone in challengers that they're looking at, but
Yeah. I mean, at this point,
it's a
there's a lot of good
it's
players
a
on the
two
bench.
roster move.
There's a lot of
It's a two roster move realistically. I think like it's a two player move.
Oh,
I mean, like
okay.
they need it. They can't just take out Vivid and throw in someone else and expect it to work unless somehow they miraculously get Hook back. But that's not happening.
No, I
Um,
I don't believe it is.
so otherwise, like I do think they need to make two switches because I don't think there's anyone uh in challengers that would replace Hook and bring to the team what they need and what they're looking for.
Right. Um, yeah, I think you have to start coming challengers for your answer, or college cod. I'll plug it again. Um, so considering that, I would imagine that you hmm. You know what? I don't even really know who's a good fit either. I asked you because I was genuinely curious myself. I really don't know how I would fix this roster at this point. Personally, like
Crazy thing is, if they got rid of Krim and they kept Clay, I don't think they ever would have dropped Hook.
exactly what I was saying with this match. I think that at the end of the day, if they had kept Clayster instead of Crimsix and sent his ass packing, then honestly, that would have been a better thing anyway. They should have marketed it as, Krim is retiring after like cementing himself as the GOAT, and like all that fun stuff, and just called it a day like that. And then kept that roster because Clay is immortal. I'm convinced. Clay is not leaving the league. Clay will play until he's 40. The dude is
Yeah.
literally unstoppable.
Clay in my eyes is probably one of the closest people to contesting Crimsix, even though Crimsix has won more titles overall. And I mean, Karma's still in that conversation, I guess, as 3 rings, even though he hasn't won as much
Right.
as Krim. Like, I'm throwing Clay in that mix too, even though his success has obviously come in kind of the latter half of his career, since he did have that 1,000-day drought of not winning a championship for 1,000 days. But yeah, Clay's like a fine wine or or some cheeses, man. He just gets better with age, which you can't really say about a lot of the pros. So, but yeah, I haven't been keeping my eye too close on challengers, so I don't really know who maybe from there you could bring into this Dallas lineup. But I imagine there's definitely some players that you could. I mean, John's obviously someone that comes to mind. I don't know how well he'd uh,
John
be
hasn't
able to
really been playing a
incorporate
whole lot.
himself. What?
John hasn't really been playing a whole lot with in the challengers scene. Yeah, at least he
Easter?
hasn't been
Isn't he
placing.
on Easter?
Is he? Yes, he's on Easter. You're right. Never mind. I don't even know who I was thinking then. Yeah, so I mean, John maybe. I don't know. Easter's not super great. They're good. Don't get me wrong, but I think whenever you're looking for like upper echelon, you're thinking about um probably BBG.
Built by gamers?
Yeah,
Isn't their lineup like Godarex, Pander?
yeah, got our X.
Uh,
Holy, look at that guy. He was
who else
cooking it
is
for the
who else
rocker.
is on there?
And now that they're going back to land, like God
Yeah,
RX is
but
gonna be
Crimsix,
nasty again.
Crimsix, Crimsix isn't picking up Godarex. He was one of the guys that was saying, "Man, silly, it sucks that you have Assault and Godarex just playing for kills on the map or something like that the prior season." So
Yeah,
I don't
but I
I don't
mean,
think he's picking him up.
I'd rather have God RX being able to get kills on the map than fucking fat ass Ian Porter running a .9 on the map,
Whew.
starting Twitter beef.
He didn't start it. Formal started it.
Formal said something on a video, and they've already come out and said like that like anything they say on
Dexerto started it. That's who started it.
yeah Dexterito.
Because they made the clickbait article.
Oh
All
man,
right, all right. I think we talked about Dallas too much, so
true.
I do want to move to LAG, and I'm done with LAG. We're moving on.
Yeah, yeah, that's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel actually about
I was
LAG.
like, oh man, this series, I'm having LAG take it. Yeah, no, that was a mistake. So yeah, LAG done for. Still kind of like them, even though they failed me. So I'm done with LAG.
I don't think they make any
Uh,
roster change or anything though. Honestly,
no,
I think
I
they
don't
just
I don't think so either.
yeah, I think we just move on.
Yeah. Um, since we didn't talk about Paris, I'll talk about Paris right now. I don't really have anything to talk about Paris. They lost S&D to the LA Thieves after their crazy like 12-2 record
Yeah,
in S&D,
one of which was
round
against
record in
FaZe.
S&D the prior week. Yeah, they won They won standoff 6-1, and then they won something else 6-1. But yeah, they beat the Thieves. This was the big upset of the weekend. But yeah, LA Thieves is flopping. Paris can still sometimes take series if you underestimate them or underperforming. So I guess that's just something to keep in mind, even though they're 100%, at
And
least in my eyes,
honestly,
even though not statistically out of contention for champs. Yeah.
honestly, I could see JCap being like, yo, we gotta focus on Atlanta, man. Like this Paris roster, nah, they ain't nothing. You guys are good. If you guys practice for FaZe, you'll be good for Paris. And then look at this.
Yeah.
Just further proof. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about Paris. I'm glad they're just playing their games. I'm glad they're winning some. You know, they they actually
Oh,
contend for the eighth
one
seed.
positive note about Paris. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Their social media manager is doing something finally. Like I think they got a new one, is what I heard on Twitter, and he's doing some stuff. So applaud to new Paris social media manager guy. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Hit me back up
yeah.
whenever you guys get to optic level.
All right. Okay. Actually, I'm pretty sure Optic's social media, at least their Twitter, isn't like the cream of the crop right now for the CDL. I'm pretty sure it's probably the Mutineers or the Subliners. Their social media managers have some pretty good stuff going on during
Yeah.
CDL match days.
Oh my God, the Mutineers in the last major where they were pushing people off the ship.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good
Oh
stuff
my
from them.
God, that was
But yeah,
too
speaking
funny.
about the Mutineers, yeah, they did lose to New York, but it was a close matchup, and they are still looking pretty good to come out at least in the winners bracket for this major, and still do have an opportunity at being first seed. I do believe at actually no, I don't think they can get first seed because of this loss to New York. Even if New York loses Toronto, I think Florida will claim that first seed. I'm not sure how that stuff works because I think it would end up being a three-way tiebreaker for first, but still, Florida looking pretty darn good, and Neptune has been looking really consistent and really solid as of recently. Hope he can keep that up since,
He's a beast.
yeah, uh, they're starting to hit form around the same time they did last year.
Right. Well, hopefully they can
It's
keep it up.
June. It's June.
Yeah, hopefully they can
It
keep it up.
was May, and now it's June. We know how scary they were from that May to June ratio, and then July they started to fall off, and the champs they weren't really there. So let's see if they can keep it up this season. If they can stay in form all the way through champs.
Yeah, it was kind of a heartbreaking loss that they had against the Subliners. That was a really good series, and I think that was probably the series of the week for me. I don't know about you, but
Yeah,
that was a good one to
that
watch.
series. Yeah, that series was probably the one to watch for that week. Definitely.
Yeah, if you're just listening to this and you haven't watched any of the games yet, I definitely at least recommend watching that one because um, Florida and Subliners battled it out. It was super close. Let me pull up the scores just to.
I'm pretty sure it went to round 11, game 5. Well, I know it went. We know it went. Yeah, game 5. But did it go to a? Actually, no. New
I don't
York actually they looked really good in the S&Ds up
Yes.
against Florida. Um, then they split the hard points, and Florida crushed. Actually, no, it was a really close raid control. Actually,
It
I think that
was.
was one of the one that got pretty crazy.
Well, I mean, the hard points were still really close. I mean,
Yeah, the hard points were close.
map 1 was 250 to 234 in the Mutineers' favor, and the checkmate was 250 to 228 in New York's favor. So it really came down to
Oh, that
half a
checkmate
hard
was
point.
insane. That checkmate was insane
It
too,
was
because that was one of the few
crazy.
times New York got outslayed by an insane margin and they still won it. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they got outslayed by like 20 kills or something along those lines,
Hey, I
and they
mean,
still won.
Route Man gets paid, and I mean, Asim doesn't have to be good at killing people. He just has to be good at getting in the right place at the right time. You
Yeah,
know,
but he has been good at killing people too.
he's been
Does help.
gross. That's the thing, is that like if ASIM can start frying, they can compete with FaZe. 100p. Um, yeah, no, but Florida did have some rough starts or
Yeah, I feel like
some.
ASIM's always been actually, sorry to cut you off. I
No, you're
keep on
fine.
cutting you off, but yeah, I feel like ASIM's actually he's been putting up like those slaying numbers in the hard points. I feel like it's just in the controls that he starts to fall off a bit.
Right.
So maybe
Uh,
that's why we're kind of seeing that differentiation in their hard point records versus the control records
true.
is just that difference there in
Yeah, I mean, you
ASIM's performance.
like there's no route really to be run in control. There are occasionally, but you don't. It's not like you're trying to influence
Yeah, the
spawns or
spawns
anything
aren't
like
as
that.
fluid.
Yeah, it's very more like it's a very structured spawn. You know where they're going to spawn at, depending on where you're spawn blocking them to. You
Yeah,
know,
it's way more of a straight up gunfight.
yeah,
Yeah, so you kind of need that front firing power. You kind of need the cavalry. But the other Florida match that we saw, it was the LA Gorillas. I'm done with the LA Gorillas,
yeah,
so we're gonna move on from there. The Saturday matchup, we had Toronto Ultra 3-0 London Royal Ravens. I think I'm also might be done with the London Royal Ravens. So I
I
feel like I'm
mean,
kind of done with all of the teams that are in the bottom four as of right now.
right,
But yeah, this was a good rebound from Toronto
right.
after losing to Florida the prior weekend.
Which, like I said, is in really really good form right now. But this just goes to show that Toronto is still like just as crazy good as Atlanta. So they basically got a bye week because London London is starting to compete against other teams, but you can't throw them at Toronto or FaZe. Like they're just gonna get eaten
Yeah.
alive. So yeah, that's just what happens. Um, so one of the ones that the coin got wrong.
Yep. And the only other matchup that we have not talked about was Paris versus Chicago. Chicago only had one match this weekend. It was like against the Paris Legion, and they took it in 3-1 fashion. It was relatively close, and Chicago had to pull off a crazy comeback in one of the hard points. It was actually the fourth hard point, the Moscow, that helped them close out the series, I do believe. And we got to listen to some very tasty comms during that comeback. I kind of wish we had stayed in those comms to really get a listen for the flow and kind of Formal was really vocal in those,
Yeah,
kind
for
of
sure.
commanding the troops around, which I think is a good thing since
I
that means they're moving maybe a bit more towards that like IW state of optic where obviously they did on winning champs. And I know for that COD,
all right, Nick, slow down. They beat
formal,
Paris. Like we're
okay, yeah, I know, but Formal was in charge kind of all the strat calling in that IW roster for during the IW period.
yeah.
So
Talk to me when they don't pull point sixes against FaZe, and then we'll
yeah.
talk about an IW optic. So
Okay.
they've got a ways to go still.
Yeah, they do. They
Like
definitely do.
this Paris one, this is if they want to get onto like FaZe and Toronto's level, they should have just 3-0'd Paris. Just came in, bodied them, cleaned it up. They shouldn't have even given them the time of day. Um, and what was it? The control that Paris won?
Yeah, it was the control that Paris won. So Optics still having issues in
Yeah,
their control.
you shouldn't be losing respawns against Paris. If you lose a search, like Paris is in good form in search right now, I wouldn't be disappointed. I think that's why we both I said 3-1 optic. You said 3-2 optic, but I think you're just blasted half the time. So, um,
No, I mean Paris is a team that's given Optic trouble a
true.
lot in the past, and it's a team that yeah, Optic could look at them, could overlook them, and get pushed the distance. Like
Yeah, but
it's
this
entirely
weekend,
possible. I'm not comfortable with this Optic roster.
no, me either.
I like the comms from Chicago during the comeback. I think they were good. I think it was a good move for them. Since I mean, in the past, I don't think Formal has been that vocal in the lineup, and if that's what we see from him being extremely vocal during their matches, then I think that's a good thing moving forward. I'm still not comfortable with this Optic Chicago roster. I still don't think they're going to be able to compete with the likes of Atlanta FaZe, of the Toronto Ultra, of the current state that we're seeing from New York and Florida. I don't think they're going to be able to compete with them. I just wanted to appreciate the quality comms that we did get from them during that comeback, since a lot of the times the comms for these COD rosters are just absolute chaos, and I don't understand how people can even pick up any information. I feel like most of the information just flies through people's ears and is completely useless.
Yeah, it takes a trained ear to go into an Astro Gaming, listen in, and be like, okay, that's what they're calling it now. All right, yeah, this seems like a good call. All right, yeah, I mean, what, like, actually critique it, right? Um, somebody who's been playing COD for a while can do it, but if you've like, my dad watched some of the I think it was the Chicago. No, what game was it? Um, it was the Minnesota Seattle game, and for whatever reason, and like he was watching and he was like, "Yeah, I have no idea what the hell's going on." So like the game is confusing for the untrained watcher, but I mean, the Astro Gaming listenings from Chicago were it was nice to hear Matthew Piper, getting a little comfortable with the roster and all that.
Yeah.
You know,
Also, Scump had a really good weekend too. Speaking
which
of
is
which,
good. If it really does ride on, honestly, it rides on the back of Scump. Dashy and Envoy are both consistent enough players. Formal had some rough spots in search um, early on in the season, and I think his search game's improved quite a bit. It really does rely on the back of Scump. Can he maintain the king position? Is he still the king? Right. That's the big question. That's the burning question that's in everybody's mind. Um,
yeah. I
so
mean, it was he was going off in that control. Honestly, it was the rest of his roster that really costed him in that control. I think everyone on his roster was like double neg, and he was like double positive in the control
right.
up against Paris. Yeah. All right. Well, unless you have anything to add, I will ask. Do you?
No, I think I'm ready for our predictions. Is that what we're going into?
Alrighty. Then moving into our week 3 predictions for stage 4. The first matchup on Thursday, we got LAG versus Toronto. Yeah, that's a 3-0 going the way of Toronto. Then we have Seattle versus Chicago. I'm gonna agree as well. I'm gonna say 3-1. I don't know, for whatever reason. Chicago gets a map. Or
Seattle
Seattle
gets a
gets a
map?
map.
No.
My bad. Yeah, no. Chicago takes it in the end. We got to get the coin in here, though.
Oh,
Can't
that's true.
forget the
Yeah, get the coin
coin.
in there while I keep
All right. Well, for the
blazing through
first
these.
matchup, the coin is going heads, so it's going to go with LAG over Toronto. It's a bit of a yikes there, coin. Maybe this is like that LAG phase matchup that we saw back during stage. What was that, stage 2? Um, Seattle versus Chicago. Coin is going to say Chicago takes it. Moving on to Friday, we got London Royal Ravens taking on New York Subliners. London, they beat New York last time. I don't see that happening again. However, uh, it could potentially go a 3-2 simply because London's really good at Apocalypse, and I feel like they could take another map off of New York potentially, like Control. So I think as long as New York doesn't pick Apocalypse Hardpoint and it's not in the map set, then I see New York taking it 3-1. Otherwise, I realistically think this could go 3-2, but I do think New York would take it in the end. As for the coin is going to go heads, so it's going to go London. Yeah, I see you have 3-3-0s to kick off the week.
Yeah.
Good golly.
Well, I
All right,
mean,
so bit more of an interesting matchup, I guess. To close out Friday, we have Minnesota versus the LA Thieves. You have Thieves taking it 3-1 over the Minnesota Rocker.
I do. I just think that the
Yeah.
Minnesota Rocker I mean, they show flashes of greatness, but they're wildly inconsistent, and I would imagine that the Thieves are going to feel a lot of pressure to clap back. So, I mean, Minnesota will as well, but I mean, I think there's more weight on the Thieves' shoulders right now, and I think they want it more.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Thieves 3-2 over Minnesota.
If it goes
The
to a
coin.
search, it's going to be Minnesota.
I don't think it'd be Minnesota in the game 5. Minnesota hasn't been that great at search,
Yeah, but the Thieves
realistically.
really haven't either. So,
No, the Thieves haven't, but I think they have a couple of maps in there that they're really solid at. Which at least with TJ in the lineup, where I feel like if they'll get at least one of them. So that's why I'll give it to them in the game 5. I got enough confidence that they could take a game 5 search up against Minnesota. Coin's gonna disagree though. Coin's gonna go with Minnesota. Next matchup, Saturday. We got a bottom of the barrel beatdown between London Royal Ravens and the LA Gorillas. Who is gonna take this one? It's a bit of an interesting one. You're gonna go London 3-2 over the Gorillas.
yes.
I'm
Actually, I'm going to go
man.
3-1.
Yeah, I really don't know who to give it to. Both I think these teams are 9th and 10th in the standings currently.
They're in the soup.
And they're not in the soup, they're at the bottom. They're burnt. They're burnt to the pan.
Burnt to the pan.
Actually, that's Seattle.
That's
Seattle's burnt to the
Seattle's
pan.
burnt to the pan. Nah, they're like the watery part of the
I don't
soup.
even know. They're slightly above the burnt stuff.
They're about to be the burnt stuff, as they're
Yeah.
they're quickly. Well, is London officially out of playoff contention?
None of the teams are officially out of playoff contention, at least statistically. It's just incredibly improbable.
Right.
Even
Okay,
with
gotcha.
how poor Minnesota is performing, the point gap is just it's too much, realistically.
True.
I mean, they would need to do really well during groups and then perform well at the major, which I don't see happening when you have such a top heavy and since the soup's dissipated so much and there's such clear rankings, I don't see it happening.
Right. Yeah, they're
But yeah, I
they're
kind of
pretty
want to give
established
this to
rankings.
LAG, even though I doubt them.
If it goes to a game 5, I'd probably trust LAG to not choke a game
London's
5
like
like London does.
oddly decent at control. It's the thing that always like slips me up. Is they don't have a bad record in control. They actually have a positive win to loss record in control.
It's the Brits, man. They
Which is
understand the weird game
a
modes.
crazy thing.
They have the weird game modes down. Hard point. Search and destroy. Yeah, we got those all day, but maybe they just figure out the weird
I'm
games.
gonna go LAG game 5 victory over the London Royal Ravens.
Yeah, and I think that's fair.
Gotta throw in some differences here.
London's a
The
choke artist.
coin, yeah, the coin's gonna go with London though. So
I would like to see London's game 5 statistics, like how many game 5s they've
it's
lost.
bad. I'm pretty sure who what is it? Round 11 stats probably has them. He usually posts some pretty interesting statistics on Twitter regarding that kind of information. But second Saturday matchup, Atlanta versus Minnesota. 3-0 Atlanta, 3-1 Atlanta, 3-0 Atlanta. Either way, Atlanta wins. That's pretty cut and dry, I think, for the most part. Coin doesn't think so. Coin's going Minnesota. Coin's crazy. Coin had a really good week and now wants to
Yeah,
falter.
now
I
wants to
say
do
that
drugs.
now, but who knows?
You gave it 3-1 Atlanta, not 3-0.
No, it should be a
This
3-0.
roster go hard. This roster go
I'm
hard.
still giving Atlanta the win. Like
Nah,
this ain't
it's
my pick'ems. I'm not in
nah.
the pool for some money, so I'm just
Fair,
you know what?
fair.
Minnesota, they get lucky.
They get
Simp,
lucky. They get
simp. like takes off his glasses for a game. Simp and RCs take off their glasses for a game to fool around. They swap glasses. Who knows? Like Celium starts playing with his feet. Like I could see him still beating some players with his feet.
No. Oh, he beat the Surge with his feet, probably.
Celium seems like a player that would actually be like weirdly good at playing with his feet.
Nah, if there's anybody, it's Abizi. Abizi is the new king of
You think
COD.
Abizi would be good?
Abizi is the new
Have I
king of
ever
COD.
told you about? Oh my gosh, what was he on a collegiate roster? Or is he just an AM? There was one. I might have said this before, but there was an amateur League of Legends player that either played in collegiate, is still in collegiate, or just played in the AM scene. But he streams, and I can't remember if he's a support main or an AD carry main. But he would play support with his feet on one account and AD carry with his hands on another account simultaneously.
Jeez, so he
And
just
I'm
held an
pretty
entire
sure,
lane by himself.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure he hit diamond doing this.
No shot.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he hit diamond doing that. But yeah, so maybe, who knows? Maybe Abizi takes over Sip's controller and plays with his feet and his hand, and just who knows? Crazy stuff. Maybe they tried,
Jeez.
but
Yeah, it's
Florida
a hot
versus
3-0.
Dallas. Florida versus Dallas. I'm saying Florida 3-1 over Dallas.
All right.
I'm putting faith in Florida. They're gonna disappoint. So the coin, if it wanted to get this prediction correct, it would say Florida, and it is, or it would want to say Dallas. My bad. So it's actually got faith in Florida. We're all putting faith in Florida. They're bound to disappoint. It's too on brand. It is June though, so who knows? It's approaching summer.
It
The
is approaching
tides
summer.
are rising. Davy Jones. Is it one of the how many years or how many years had to separate between when Davy Jones could come ashore in Pirates of the Caribbean, do you know?
Oh, I don't remember. I think it's like 7.
Because that might be if it becomes the spacing between when they win CDL champs, that'd be hilarious. Um, I'll have to look into that stat. But moving on to Sunday, we got the bottom of the burnt, Seattle versus Paris. And yeah, dude, I just don't even know. I probably got to put my faith in Paris, but for this matchup, I feel like Seattle could realistically win too.
Yeah, I mean, Paris is at least in better form with Surge. I genuinely do not think that Seattle could beat Paris in a Search and Destroy. So either Seattle comes out and just annihilates them in
Dude,
the
the
respawn.
crazy thing is, like thinking back on the past week, is that Seattle should have beat, or was it 2 weekends ago? It was 2 weekends ago when Seattle should have beat the Thieves
Yeah.
and gotten their first control win, but they choked. So yeah, I'll go with Paris 3-2 over Seattle. Like Seattle, they get so close and then they just lose.
Yeah.
Coin's having faith in the Surge though. Coin, at least someone does.
Well, that's why we have the coin. It's our Doug
Ooh.
Sensor Martin.
So we do get a good Sunday match. We actually have, I guess, a couple good Sunday matches. Hopefully they won't be disappointments as kind of the prior ones have been. But we got Toronto versus Subliners.
There's no way this one's a disappointment.
Yeah.
No matter how you split it, these teams are disgusting.
This is gonna be some good Call of Duty.
I'm telling you, this is my pick
I'm
for the
going
map.
with Toronto. You're going with Subliners. I got to go with Toronto. I cannot doubt Toronto. Like Toronto is 100% taking the control in my eyes.
Yeah, for sure.
New York has had some really close hard points recently. So I think Toronto realistically has a shot at taking a hard point up against New York.
And you think they take the last Surge?
And then searches. Searches have been 50-50 for New York. Toronto, their search hasn't been as good since stage 2, but it's still been pretty damn solid.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna end up giving it to Toronto. I got faith in the Ultra Boys. Clay is starting to mimic Bance's breathing techniques, but you can't beat the original. New York's gonna go. the coin, I believe, actually is going to agree with you. It's going New York. So got some backup there in your predictions. Moving on to our final matchup, though, of the Sunday to close out stage 4 groups. We got Chicago versus the LA Thieves.
I went 3-1 Chicago.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Except Chicago,
Yeah,
I
they
just
they just
I
shit the bed
I
when they see
just
the
don't
thieves.
feel I mean, they've lost to them once, only once.
Fair.
It's
I don't
just
know.
yeah, Chicago.
Nah, you're blasted if
It's
you
like
think Chicago loses.
yeah, I know. I don't think they'll lose. I just don't know if it's going to be a 3-2 or a 3-1. So, I'm going to I'm going to say it's a 3-2. More likely it's a 3-1. I'm going to give it to Chicago in the end though. It's
I
just
really thought it was gonna be a
I
3-0,
haven't
but
I haven't felt weird about Chicago all season until like recently, I feel. Because I feel like I've always had at least faith that they should win series, and I've had kind of faith at least in their S&D. Um, and so I don't know why. I've just started to get a shakier feeling with this Chicago roster as of recently. But the coin is going to agree with that. Is also going with Chicago. So after some crazy predictions by the coin, it did start to even things out, and so
yeah, it should
it's
go back to
probably
50-50.
probably trending back towards 50-50 after a stellar weekend from it this past week.
Yeah.
But I do think that is going to be it from us for this episode. So hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend. Sure to tune into the matches, and we will see you next time.
Later.